And, we're now, I'm not supposed to say quite how far away, but you're shooting things down from miles away. You're shooting
miles away.
And it's not just like the little tiny, like, DJI drones or whatever they're called. It's like, these are the big things that Iran's making for Russia as well. They could take down quite a far distance away. And
what the hell do you think these drones are?
This is funny. We're going to be at the Army Navy game, and so I'm bummed that I'm going to find out tomorrow probably from all these guys, right? Because I'm sure they know. I'm sure they know, but I haven't texted them and asked. I mean, if it's not ours, then it's really incompetent, right? If this is not ours, if this is ours, then it's also kind of weird. Like, why are we doing this and freaking people out? But if it's not ours, what the heck, man?
Well, I mean, it was like 2 years ago, we're freaking out about a spy balloon traversing the United States from Washington all the way down to South Carolina.
I got a good answer on that, though. I'm sure it's public by now, but I think because of the fact that we let it stay up, we were able to hack into it, trace back where the data was going, and like find out a lot about the Chinese. And so it turned out in that case, it made sense. And it turned out that Xi Jinping didn't even know his underlings had put this spy balloon up and we're doing it. And it was actually bad for China because we used it to hack in. So I think in that case, there's like a competent answer, which makes you feel good that there's like not totally incompetent people. Like they met with Biden, they said what they're going to do. He agreed to let them do it. And that was fine. So hopefully there's a competent answer for these drones, but it's a weird thing, man.
I mean, do you think it's ours?
I assume it's ours because if it's not, that's insane.
Why would they fly it over? Why wouldn't they fly this over like Area 51 or some testing grounds?
You know what I found out about government, man, is that there are some really great people. There's some amazing special forces guys. Every once in a while on the DOD, you'll have this like genius person in the strategy group, and then the vast majority of them are incompetent. And so it's just hard for me to say, but I'm hoping they're ours, because if they're not ours, that's actually a little bit scary, and it's really incompetent that we're not doing something.
Do you think this might be a distraction
from something going on in the Middle East or something going on?
I don't know.
China?
Maybe some bad juju's going on somewhere else, and they're just throwing these things up to distract everybody.
If there was another story, then maybe, but I don't know. That's an interesting question. We're gonna find out really soon. I'm curious. I don't want to make a bunch of stupid guesses and I come out to be an idiot, because it's hard for me to know. I actually don't know the answer.
Well, I mean, drone warfare is becoming obviously very prevalent.
Absolutely critical. This is the future of warfare. Is like lots and lots of manufactured, smart, weaponized, autonomous drones, whether they're flying, whether they're on the water, whether they're under the water, whether they're on the land. Like that is the future of warfare as far as I'm concerned.
So, people, one of the reasons I'm bringing this up is obviously I'm just extremely curious of what your thoughts are. But another reason is, I've been reading reports on CNN. People are posting the neighborhood watch groups and the Facebook groups and stuff, and they're freaking out. And what I find probably isn't a coincidence, because I believe in a higher power, but you founded Epirus.
Yeah.
And Epirus is a directed energy, basically a directed EMP weapon. And it is, I mean, it seems to me from the reading I've done on it, it's defense against drones.
Epirus is a really important company, and I'm proud to be a co-founder there with it. It's not just, I can't take credit for it by myself. There's a few other people who are critical. Nathan Mintz, Bomar, other guys. Grant stepped in and played a key role. The background on that, by the way, is, I'd gotten out of defense for a few years, because after Palantir, it's like hard. You have to go talk to senators, you have to go to the DOD. It's like, this is stressful stuff. I built companies elsewhere, like you mentioned. But then, we saw in the early 2010s, we saw a lot of our smartest friends in China were being forced to have their engineers work on military projects. And we said, wait a second, this is not good. And then we saw our defense primes, were not able to attract the best talent at all. So we had in America, these defense primes had all consolidated in the 90s. And obviously Palantir had to compete against them on software side and crushed them. But their hardware side was also going downhill. It was also getting worse. And this is a big problem, that China's getting better. It's getting worse here. And then it turned out that Xi Jinping guy is clearly a commie who's going to try to confront us. He's going to be a serious adversary. And that got scary. And then a bunch of my friends, three of the best guys from Palantir with Palmer Luckey, started the Anduril. And so we backed that early. And it basically convinced me, at the time, looking at all these things and looking at Anduril, we better get back involved in defense. So we said, okay, we're back involved in defense. What are we going to do? We need to get more of our best and brightest from the tech world, which I'm lucky to come from and have access to work on these problems. And we mapped out about 20 different areas. And we decided to start EPRIS first and decided to build that because exactly the future of warfare seemed very clearly to be heading towards drone warfare. And it's just not sustainable to fire missiles at drones, right? You're spending $1 million or $100,000 to shoot down something that costs a lot less than that. So you need a one-to-many effect. You need to be able to shoot cones of energy. And the thing we realized, really with the help of some really smart people like Bo and Nathan, is that it turns out that the chips in Silicon Valley had gotten to be so powerful and so fast that they can help you control power on very small timescales and get the power to hit the emitter and then fire way farther than anything anyone else was doing. And so the emitters was called gallium nitride. It's just a super efficient way of shooting.
Gallium nitride.
Gallium nitride is a GaN, they call them GaN is the element, code. The gallium nitride, these are super efficient emitters, and these exist in other places too. It's a big breakthrough that was really started to be used in the last kind of like 10, 15 years in a bunch of different contexts. But it turns out if you use the AI chips, get the power to hit the gallium nitride, you're taking a bunch of power and you're kind of condensing it into like a 10,000th of a second or even less of a thing. And so you have this burst. It's a super fast burst, and the burst is intense enough because it's so condensed that when it hits the drone, when it hits the electronics, it fries them. It destroys them. And then there's all sorts of things you do to kind of tune the burst and figure out how to actually do it most efficiently and effectively to fry these things as well. And we're now, I'm not supposed to say quite how far away, but you're shooting things down from miles away. You're shooting
miles away,
and it's not just like the little tiny DJI drones or whatever they're called. It's like these are the big things that Iran's making for Russia as well. They could take down quite a far distance away. And what's really cool is you're not just doing it. So you're doing it for bases, you're doing it for forward attacks, but you can put these things. You put smaller versions in the cones. So for example, Anduril's Roadrunner. You've seen that, right? The thing that takes off and lands again.
Yeah.
You can put it in one of those missiles, and and that one's not going to work that as far because it's a smaller form factor. But that missile can get up and get pretty close to the bad guy drones, fire a bunch of them, and then come back and land. And so there's things like this that you do now too.
So how many drones could one of these? What do you call the actual weapon? Is it Leonidas?
Leonidas is the first version of the product that's being forward deployed with CENTCOM, and it's just going out actually in the next month, which is great. The tests have shown you could do about 100 drones at a time in certain contexts. 100
drones at a time?
I mean, if they're together and flying together, and then the thing moves. So you fire. What's great? So you know why it's called EPRIS? So the EPRIS was the bow of Theseus. Theseus was the guy who started Athens in Legend, right? And in Legend, his bow had infinite arrows. And so that's the point here is you're firing electronic power. So you effectively have infinite arrows. So this thing can fire thousands of times. And each shot costs almost nothing.
Wow. So that gives us hope. So basically, all these drones in New Jersey, if we wanted to, they could, deploy a Leonidas and
take it down that way. I don't know if they want to, they could shoot it down right now with any number of different types of missiles. I'm sure.
Yeah.